What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League deadline stream here on the channel. Today, it's the final game week of the season, and there's a lot of things to talk about for a lot of people, that is for sure. A lot of people looking at taking -4s desperately to try to change up their team's comparison to their rivals. And in general, while it's not the greatest idea, it does differentiate you enough where you at least have some hope, but most hope, of course, does not come to fruition in FPL, but that's the way it is. One thing I will start off mentioning is that I'm very worried about Bruno, and I think I'm going to have to at least consider benching him, maybe selling him for a -4. That would be very unfortunate, simply because I don't think that's that effective. Let's see if I can find some Bruno news. Let's pull up understat.com first, though. The thing is that Manchester United have to play on Wednesday. So a lot of their best players, I believe, should be benched. That includes Greenwood and Bruno. I realize now that I should have sold Greenwood instead of Saka, but I chose the wrong one. And I put Greenwood on the bench and sold Saka. I think the obvious captaincy choice is really Salah, and although I would love to be different, the thing is that I think Liverpool had the best fixture this week against Crystal Palace. Liverpool are one of the few teams that has a lot to play for. They really need to win from their standpoint, because they aren't going to know what their opponents are going to do. I think that really fares well for Liverpool defenders. I think Liverpool double defense is amazing. But even their attackers, because Crystal Palace, this game really means nothing to them. But we don't really know how they'll play. Maybe they'll defend hard, maybe they won't. Of course, last game of the season, especially for teams with nothing to play for, we typically see a lot of goals. I believe it's significantly more than usual. So in general, that makes playing formations like 3-4-3, 3-5-2 better formations, and that's one reason I have Loden on the bench at the moment. Let's go to, you know what, matter of fact, let's start off just by sorting over the last 2 months. Pretty large time zone, and let's see who's got the best expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. And that would be Joshua King, but obviously tiny sample size. We'll have to go to the next page. Martinelli is so high up there. I don't really see him as a legitimate option, but it's somebody to look out for as a differential. Martinelli, amazing XG and expected assists per 90 minutes. I would not have expected that. I haven't checked these at all. Joe Willock, of course, 6 goals in his last 6 games. Expected goal involvement per 90 minutes higher than Salah, Mane, Kane, Havertz, Jota, all the big boys. He is right up there, and that's incredible. I think he's a great option this week as well. They have a great fixture, even a differential captaincy option. So if you don't go Harrison or Rafinha like I advocated in the video, I think Willock would be probably the next best, especially a lot of people are looking for differentials, and he could be amazing. How many people, especially started off or through the early parts of the season, picked up Joe Willock? Probably about 20. So yeah, definitely a great option. I could even still take a -4 and bring in bring in Willock and sell Bruno. That would be interesting. Hello, Kobe. That's the second person to call me Blockster today. What's good, Kobe and Eric and Blues? Is that the real Manchester United lineup, guys? Is that for real? If so, we can go check it out. I don't know if Mark Goldbridge is Mr. Reliable Team News Leaker, but we can at least go take a look at it. But so back to who's been performing great recently. Mane is actually up there, but Mane, of course, 2 goals from 3.93 expected goals. He knows he's playing poorly. It's a thing. Not been amazing. Kane, of course, is well up there. I think a lot of people may sell Kane this week, but we have to remember, like I said, there's typically a lot of goals the final game week. I don't think it's great for Kane because they're playing a team that do have something to play for with Leicester. But I still think you probably have bigger transfers to make if you have Greenwood, Bruno, And in general, I like the midfield options that you can bring in more than the forward options anyway. And it's still Harry Kane, who's always got at least a decent chance of scoring a goal. So not a huge fan of selling him, but I'm not like completely against it either. Che Adams is interesting. You know, I don't think I could go that way personally. I think it's a little bit too tough of a matchup. But again, it's the final game week of the season. Any decent option could have a big game week, and that's why I think it is a good game week to look for differential attackers. Maybe not necessarily differential defenders. Keenan Davis is up there. That's a small sample size. Never mind. Chris Wood. Chris Wood is obviously one that has to be mentioned. I mentioned him in the video because they play Sheffield United. Now, as I always say, Sheffield United are not good. So what that means is that teams can score goals against them. And I know you're probably wondering, like, where did you get all this crazy information from? Well, they're last in the table. And they have scored 20 points this season. So, yeah, pretty bad. As far as expected goals against go, West Brom still beat them, though. And that's one reason why I still am a fan of the Leeds triple up. I have it this week. Dallas maybe isn't as necessary as other weeks. I do think West Brom more than likely will score. There's always a decent chance of a clean sheet. But the thing I like about Leeds this week, and one reason I made my transfer is I pull up my team, and you can see I basically tripled up on 3 teams. Leeds, we don't know. We don't know how this will be. I guess we should probably look at like history of when Leeds have had games that haven't meant much. But theoretically, like we've seen that last couple of games. I think Bielsa, like in the way they train and the way they're always taught to play hard, basically, like I know that's every team, but them especially, I would suppose. I think that fares well for the end of the season performances as well as FPL, as long as there's no rotation. Now, if there was to be any rotation from some teams because it's the final game week of the season and they want to like give some people a rest and make sure they don't get hurt, I could certainly see Leeds being one of those candidates because a lot of these players have been kind of run into the ground over the course of the season. That includes Stuart Dallas, who's played 90 minutes every week. Of course, this is all just speculation. There's no real reason why they have to be benched, but it's just if that's what Bielsa wants to do, I think it would make sense. But it's not really a reason to bench them or be really afraid. You sort of just have to accept that if it happens, I think. But Harrison's basically played 90 minutes every game. And Bamford, well, they've already been giving him his rest, so I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. It's probably a bad thing. Probably means he's got 60 minutes in him or something around there. But what I was going to say is that if you look at their recent performances, they've actually done pretty well in these games that haven't mattered at all. They beat Burnley 4-0. They beat Tottenham 3-1. And before that, Brighton 2-0 loss. Okay, that's not good. But before that, they drew with Liverpool and drew with Manchester United and beat Man City. And then they didn't lose the 3 games before that either. So Leeds have been performing very well in games that have they mattered. I mean, the further we go back, the more they matter, right? But still, it's not like they've been in a relegation battle or a promotion battle. They're a team that's trained to fight well, and they've been doing that just because they step on the field. I would expect the same thing from them against the team that's conceded the most XG over the course of the season. I think it's a great matchup for their attackers. I mean, there's nothing else I could say about it. I would still rank, as far as trustworthiness goes, because of potential rotation, because we just don't know. Not like I've heard anything or anything like that, but because we just don't know with them, I still rank them as the second best attacking fixture behind Liverpool, because Liverpool, we do know that they need to win this game, and they will be playing, or they should at least be playing, Salah and Mane. Maybe not Mane because he's been poor, but you get the point. They're going to be playing all-out, strong starting 11, which may not be the case for some other teams. I would say the third best matchup is West Ham versus Southampton. Of course, I have them as well. You could make an argument for Man City versus Everton. There's a lot of rotation there. I don't really know who you would get. Probably Torres. And I think that's probably it. I mean, maybe Arsenal or Chelsea if you think their attacks are good. I'm not really too convinced. And then after that, there's not. Oh, also Burnley versus Sheffield United, I suppose, enters the conversation. But the thing about West Ham is they have some legitimate FPL options like Lingard and Antonio, where like Burnley, it's really Chris Wood or nothing. And that's if you trust Burnley's attack at all. So, yeah, I would rank West Ham as the third attacking matchup. I like the look of those 3. targeting those three. And besides that, I mean, there's Newcastle against Fulham, but that's just Joe Willock. Burnley is Chris Wood, and Newcastle is Joe Willock as far as FPL options go. They mean the exact same thing. Okay, you say it looks like it's almost confirmed as far as the team news goes. Well, then I'll definitely have to check it out. Let's go to, now I forgot his name. Mark Goldbridge. I wonder if I follow Mark Goldbridge. Hey Sudanshu, how are you doing? Hey Bandit, I am doing well, guys. Get Mane and Iheanacho for Kane and Jota. I would like to do that. It's a -4. Yeah, if you have 2 free transfers, that sounds fine. The thing is, like, I don't know about the Iheanacho and Kane, but I would definitely be interested in Mane this week. Between Rafinha and Harrison and why? So I chose Harrison, so I'm going to have to say Harrison, but as I said in the video, it's basically a toss-up. Rafinha has a better goal or assist per 90-minute ratio this season. Rafinha doesn't have as recent of an explosive game. He also just came off an injury recently, which scares me that I think that there's more reason for a last-second benching. And given the fact that they've both been fine this season, they've both been basically the same, I just chose the one I personally think is a little bit less likely to get benched. And again, I know there's not any rumors of them being benched or anything. I just personally feel like there's a decent chance and that it would make sense for the manager to bench them in the final week or, sub them off early or basically give them less playing time. So, this team saves my life. This team saves my life because, as I said, I sold Saka instead of Greenwood. Seeing Greenwood in the starting lineup makes me feel a lot better. So with that said, I'm going to bench Bruno and put Greenwood there. And let me know, guys, if you run in, because I probably won't check just because I don't want to turn the stream into me following Mark Goldbridge around and what his news, how reliable it is. But if you at any point determine that team news is not credible, let me know. Is this the actual Mark Goldbridge though? Oh yes, okay, it is. Just making sure I wasn't. I didn't see a check mark. So, but I'm gonna put Bruno first on the bench. I'm actually gonna put Lowton over Bruno, which is why one reason I'm like, let me know if this isn't correct. I know this probably doesn't matter, but at least I think Lowton is gonna start. I think Sheffield United are still likely to score again. Final game week of the season. I don't really expect many clean sheets. But against Sheffield United, come on, you got to give him a chance at first sub. And I'm not expecting Fabianski to play, by the way. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm just throwing them both out there. Johnston and Fabianski, hopefully one of them gets 2 or 3 points for me. I'm just hoping for the best, really. I don't think Fabianski will play if I had to bet on it, which sucks because, like, it's the final game week of the season. I want to have a bunch of, like, a high upside team, but having your goalkeeper play against your Leeds triple up isn't exactly high upside, as one of them is going to not do great unless, I don't know, Click has a penalty saved. But that's extremely, extremely unlikely. Hey, Thomas, you made a -4. Madison and Bruno to Mane and Harrison. Slight risk with potential Bruno return. I mean, hey, we're getting news that Bruno's going to be benched, so it looks a lot better now. Somebody being benched and likely coming on for 0 or 1 point. I mean, it depends on how good of a sub you have at this point. Whether this is going to be, it's going to be interesting. It's always interesting when you sell a player that ends up not playing, and it would have been beneficial if you kept them because, like, your random bench player scores. But that's the annoyance of FPL, I suppose. To Mane and Harrison, I personally love the move. I think those are the best 2 fixtures, as I said earlier, Harrison and Mane. And not a lot of people own them, so if you're looking for a big gain, I think that would be very nice. Yeah, that's probably as simple, good move as you can get this week. Stuff like Bruno to Mane looks great, and bringing in Harrison and Rafinha, obviously, I'm a big fan of it as well. Should I play Digne over Bruno, since Digne will definitely play? I mean, I want to say yes, but it's like, aren't Man City guaranteed 2 goals? So then, like, they're each getting 1 point if Bruno comes off on as a sub. I mean, if you have anybody else, I would probably play them, but Dina's fine. I mean, we don't know what Man City are going to do. Maybe they'd play a completely garbage lineup. I mean, how bad can a Man City lineup be? I guess that's the question. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, but I think I would play Dina if you trust that news. Azpilicueta or Chilwell for Dina? This is a good question. He asked for the stats. Let's give him the stats. So let's go to understat.com and let's simply sort by. Let's go by Chelsea. We can take a look at all of Chelsea while we're at it, since we have some Chelsea fans lying around. So let's go. Okay, since March 23rd, that works. Expected goal involvement over the whole team. Tammy Abraham, no sample size, doesn't count. Havertz, of course, leads, followed by Werner and Mount. Those are probably going to be your only options. Pulisic's up there as well. At least he was able to convert some, unlike Timo Werner, who only scored 1 goal. Let's see. So you're saying Azpilicueta or Chilwell. Let's first check their minutes. I think they've been playing a lot of minutes, but I haven't kept up with Chelsea. I haven't played any players against them. I haven't had any Chelsea players in forever, so I have not kept up with them. Chilwell. Some rotation. I would expect him to start if I had to choose. Azpilicueta is probably going to get it from me because I think he's a little bit more likely to start. It is the final game of the season. We just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with rotation. I'm going to look at things outside of rotation, right? So, because I don't know. So, let's see recent attacking thread. We have Azpilicueta below Chilwell. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it. Chilwell is basically twice the amount of attacking threat that Azpilicueta has had over the past 2 months. More expected assists, more expected goals. Azpilicueta basically has no XG at all. Let's take a look over the whole season and see how things change, because it's still important to look at the whole season. Chilwell still beats Azpilicueta. It's not quite double the amount at that point. But he still beats him. Azpilicueta still very low as far as goal threat, and simply loses in. Actually, no, they have about the same assist threat over the course of the season. So either one, you're looking at a 10% chance of an attacking return per game if you go by this. So nothing too huge either way. I think the biggest thing for you to consider is which one you think is going to start, given the tiny things we're dealing with here. It is kind of a tough matchup anyway, so I'm not a huge fan of them, but I get that you may have both, or you may want to make a decision. Let's look. Oh, by the way, this Manchester United team, I almost completely forgot to make a point of this. I think this is going to be interesting because if I can find the post. Because if you trust this team news, right, you could bring in Alonga this week if he's going to be starting at striker. Now, Alonga, I actually know some stuff about. Not really, but I own him in career mode on FIFA 21. So basically, I'm an expert, and I'll tell you that he's a Swedish left mid / striker. So he's listed as a midfielder, but he can play striker, and I know that there's a decent chance that he can start there. 0.0% owned, 4.5 million. You could bring him in for anybody. You could sell any midfielder and bring in Alonga. And that's probably, I mean, is he going to go score a hat trick? Probably not. It's still Wolves. If it was an easier fixture, I would be all over it, I think. But considering Greenwood starting anyway, I think that's probably the main threat you want to go for here. But Alonga, I would say Alonga over Mata or Ahmad personally, but again, we're not too sure. But that's just because of listed positioning here by Mark Goldbridge that he's going to play striker, which is always nice. Also, Williams could be a nice option, and it's good to know that Henderson will start for all the Henderson owners out there. Let's take a look at Arsenal, because they have a pretty good fixture. I mean, it's not amazing. Brighton have been decent, right? But there are potential options here. The thing that interests me the most is the fact that over the past 2 months, which the stat I literally found out minutes ago that's blowing my mind, is that Oh, I'm on page 2. I was like, what? Martinelli has such good stats. And Nketiah has a small sample size, but great stats as well. Aubameyang's are pretty good as well. Lacazette's aren't bad. They have a lot of decent options here. Smith Rowe's are much better than Saka's. So I think these could be some decent outside options as well. If you had to play Smith Rowe, I don't think it would be that bad. Let's look at Brighton's recent performances. I know they conceded to the Man City, but it doesn't really count. They conceded 2 to Wolves. That's not great. I mean, they've been defending pretty well at the end of the season, to be honest. In general, I mean, you probably, if you watch the channel a lot, you know I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, guys, Arsenal are so good. Let's all go get their players. So, Mendy or Martinez, I'm going to have to say, honestly, I don't expect big things from either one. If I had to choose, I'm going to say Mendy because let's look at the EPL standings. Whichever team has more to play for is my answer. But if I had to choose without any like big variables in between, I would say Martinez. I would say Mendy because they've been good defensively. But Chelsea still have something to play for, basically top 4. They could easily lose it. So definitely Mendy for me. They have every reason, and the reason I say like teams that have something to play for defend better. I've seen statistics about it throughout the past seasons, but besides that, like it makes sense, right? Not necessarily the defenders are just going to give up one-on-one if they have nothing to play for, but it's all about like once it gets to the second half or like the 70th minute, the midfielders and all the attackers especially won't have the same determination to track back and like really like, oh my gosh, let's keep this clean sheet. There's none of that. But it's mainly like all this kind of stuff that Roy Keane would talk about if he's criticizing somebody, like, oh, you got to track back, you got to go in hard, you got to put effort in. I just don't see, they're not closing people down, all that kind of stuff all that kind of stuff drops down basically when you have nothing to play for. So that's why teams defend a little worse, I would say. I don't have any clues about the City lineups, Rob. How's it going, Nuclear Atoms? Hey, I feel good to see you. Hey, I have Rashford and Bruno. Who shall I take from -4? 0 in the bank. Okay, this makes sense. You want to sell both of them. It's probably going to be worth it because they'll probably get 0 or 1 points. Let's see. Good to see you back, T-Tech, by the way. Well, okay. How much fun do you want to have? That's the question, because there's this man, Alonga, for 4.5, and then you could also get Mane. So if you trust Manchester United in this pretty garbage lineup, you could go with Alonga. 0.0% owned is why I say that, and he's playing striker, let's say as a midfielder. Could be okay, final game week of the season, right? If you don't go for Alonga and Mane, because I think you would have the money to do that, because, going down to Alonga gives you infinite money. You could also just go for Harrison and Rafinha, or Harrison and Willock, or Rafinha and Willock. Like, I know you'd end up with a lot of money in the bank, but realistically, those guys had the best fixtures. I would forget about the price tag. There's also Torres as a high upside option. Those are probably the main ones I'd want to highlight. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. You could always go for Son. I'm not personally a huge fan this week. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards. It depends. I'm kind of leaning towards Alonga and Mane. I think that would be cool. But the safer way to do it would be Rafinha and Willock, I think. So, or Harrison and Willock. Of course, I got Harrison, so have to recommend him. Sanshuru says, "Hello, block Mahrez and Son for -4." Okay, Harrison and Mane, or play it safe, Watkins to Bamford. Mahrez and Son. Not a huge fan of Son this week. I don't really know if Mahrez is going to play. I guess nobody does. Is he? I don't think he's hurt. You know what? I'm going to have to say play it safe and go Watkins to Bamford because it's still Son. If I liked Mane a little more, like if he was in great form, I would say, okay, you want to get all over the Crystal Palace matchup, but I like Bamford this week. I know there's still some rotation risk with regards to him coming off early, but I think playing it safe and not doing the -4 is probably the default for the final game week of the season, especially if you're not desperately trying to be differential. -4s in the final week, man. They're just tough. You have to make up all 4 points in 1 week. It's not easy to do. The one way where it can be viable this week is, well, if you have players like Rashford and Bruno, who, according to the league team news, will not start. So that's a huge information there. Son to Mane and Greenwood to Foden for a -4. Son to Mane and Greenwood to Foden for a -4. I don't know about Foden. I get that it's high upside, so I'm gonna be down with that. I think it's fine. Just be aware that you could probably do things where you don't have to sell Son, right? Just because it's a -4 the final week. Son to Mane, I think it's fine. It's fine because Mane certainly has higher upside. Again, they're playing a team that has nothing to play for. So I'm going to say this -4 makes sense, but just be aware. -4 is the final week. Like, I just would never be surprised if they go wrong. Bruno out for Torres, and then Wood also in for a -8. Well, who are you selling for Wood? I guess that's the question. Because Bruno out for a hit makes sense. I completely am down for Bruno out for Torres. Let's go back up a little bit to people that may still be watching. Oh, hey, Alan. Good to see you again. Thank you very much, Alan. I think Man United may lose to Wolves, Bandit says. Yeah, I mean, with that team, I would not be surprised at all. Who would you start, Nacho or Greenwood? I would start Greenwood. Yeah, I think I would go Greenwood there. I mean, either one could be very nice, but I don't know, actually. Greenwood with no supporting cast, is that good? I don't even know if it's an easier matchup or not. That's really a tough one. I'm still going to lean towards Greenwood, though. I trust Mr. Greenwood. I really do. So yeah, I chose Harrison over Rafinha, but it's really it really could go either way. Hey, Capital FPL, how's it going? Robbo to Dallas and Bruno to Mane for free. Oh yeah, I saw that you had 2 free transfers. I was actually going to comment, but of course I had the live stream. Robertson to Dallas. Okay, I mean, let me actually pull up your team just so I can look at it. Because the thing is, like, I'm not a huge fan of making defender transfers the final week simply because there's a lot of goals scored a lot of times and teams can lose clean sheets. And I would try to keep Robertson if you had the chance, to be honest, like, because Liverpool have something to play for. And I think it's arguably a better matchup. And Leeds have run some of their players into the ground. I personally just am worried about rotation, although that could simply be because I have 3 of their players. So Bruno to Mane I think is obviously, yeah, I support that, but you have to find a way to get the money besides doing Robbo to Dallas. So that's why I have your team pulled up. And I don't have anything else to recommend you, really. I think with 2 free transfers in this team, I still think I would keep Robertson. I know you can't get Mane like that. You already have Salah. That would be nice, but I think Trent, Robertson, and Salah is about as good as you're going to get for a Liverpool triple up this week. So I think I would keep it simple. It's going to feel weird with a lot of money in the bank, but you could always go for Alonga. I'm going to throw that out there. If you trust the lineup that's leaked for Manchester United, Alonga, 4.5 midfielder for United, will start at striker. And that could give you money to do Fernandez. Well, you couldn't get money anyway because you would have 3 Liverpool. So maybe, you couldn't even do Smith Rowe to Alonga. So I'm going to suggest Bruno to Harrison or Rafinha, whichever one you like. And you could almost hold there. Or you could make a goalkeeper transfer. Of course, I just choose the most boring options. I mean, realistically, you could go Bruno to a Leeds player and then Iheanacho to Bamford. I think those would be good, or getting rid of Martinez and getting someone else. I wouldn't do the goalkeeper transfer. I think I would sell Iheanacho and Bruno. But what you suggested is also fine if you're a huge fan of Mane. But either way, obviously, sell Bruno. There's no debate about that. Play Keane or White, Sudhanshu says. Keane or White? Wow. We're at the bottom of the barrel here, Sudanshu. What is going on? Are there multiple whites? Is there just one white? I know there are a lot of whites worldwide, Trust me. But, okay, so it's just, I thought there might have been one for Newcastle for some reason. I think I would play Ben White. I mean, come on, they're playing Arsenal. How hard? I mean, that's a pretty easy matchup, right? How hard can it be? I would play White, but either way, I wouldn't expect much. But surely Man City score at least twice against Everton, so... Which matches would you like to stay away? For me, it's Man City and the Chelsea one. I think the Chelsea one is the number one that I want to stay away from, because you have Chelsea that have had a lot of cagey games in the past with something to play for. They're playing against Villa, which a lot of people have players from or have over the course of the season and may still have them, but I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game if I had to pick. I do think some Chelsea options are fine if you already have them, but I wouldn't necessarily transfer them in and target them, so whereas I would with, like Leeds, Liverpool, maybe even Burnley and some other fixtures out there. But so in general, I would stay away from transferring in Chelsea or Villa players. None really interest me besides like Havertz and maybe a Chelsea defender. But again, if they had a better fixture, it would be different. With these fixtures, I would not transfer them in. Another matchup I would stay away from, I mean, yeah, Man City and Everton because of rotation. But honestly, Man United and Wolves, I know I've recommended Alonga as a way to like get Mane or to, just be differential. But in general, I don't think with that lineup that United put out, I don't think it's great to be looking at United defenders or Henderson or, but Wolves also haven't been too impressive recently. But this is a game that could be high scoring. United have nothing to play for. We've seen their lineup. Wolves are right in the middle of the pack. So these teams have nothing to play for, and that could lead to a lot of goals being scored. So I think defensively, a lot of people have United and Wolves defenders. I would stay away from this. I would try to bench them, honestly, if you could, especially if they're not playing, obviously. But hopefully it turns into a goal fest. The thing is that, like, with Wolves, they play in such a structured way most of the time with their, like, wing backs. Like, I'm worried that they just beat Man United 2-0 and it's a boring game. So, I don't know. I would expect games like Leeds and West Brom. I know I've talked about that game a lot. I would expect it to be high scoring. It could all go wrong, but that's my game that I've gambled on this week. So, start Nacho or Greenwood. I mentioned it earlier. I went back and read it. I would start Greenwood if I had to choose. It's so close to call. I don't have a strong opinion, though. Let's take a look at the stats recently, because I think this could help. Again, it's the final game week of the season, and a lot of things can change. But let's do as we usually do. Oh, we don't have much time left. I forgot I started late today. Well, let's pull some players. Let's pull some highlighted players. Greenwood, the one big starter of a Manchester United team. Let's go to Iheanacho. A lot of people probably have a benching decision. Let's throw Kane in here as well. And let's throw Mane. Oh, didn't come up. Type in Sadio. And let's look at these four guys. So the reason I put in Kane is because I'm like, you know what? Do you really want to sell him? He's got basically he's he's got 0.98 expected goal involvement per game. So that's basically like, if you look at that as a percentage, it's like on average he's going to average a goal per game. 100% chance of him scoring or getting assists. Not really how that works, but Mane actually beats Kane with amazing statistics. Iheanacho does beat Greenwood recently. You just have to decide how much them playing Spurs is a bad thing. Spurs don't really have much to play for anymore, I suppose, besides the fact that they could shift a lot in placement. They could theoretically go up to 6th, but they could drop down, let's see. Oh, because of goal differential, they actually couldn't drop down that far. So Tottenham don't really have anything to play for, and Leicester do. I think that, I don't know if that means Leicester will be an all-out attacking side, though. I would just think that means they really commit to defending. And it's still Tottenham, so I'm really on the fence. I can't give you a solid answer. If I had to choose, I would go with my gut and still say Greenwood, though. You're doing Kane to Iheanacho and Jota Mane. Yep. feel free to go for it this week. That's what I would say. I think if people are willing to take a punt, then they should go for Traore because Man United is weakened. That would make a lot of sense. I would imagine that Wolves should score, right? They should score at least 1 or 2. So I think Wolves Man United isn't necessarily great to trust. It's not a game you're gonna bring someone in and be like, oh, this guy's like, I don't know, somebody we can trust like Bamford or Antonio that's been there for the whole season. But it's a great place to look for players like Alonga or Traore who may just out of nowhere with their 0% ownership actually do something. Man, I was inspired by Pulakash for a second. He says, I'm going for Antonio captain. I'm like, you know what? I should captain someone a little more differential, but I just feel like everybody's going to have that idea, and it will just make the Salah captaincy a little better. Yeah, please. I would recommend benching Greenwood, everybody. Because of that lineup, he's not going to start. So I would bench, not Greenwood, sorry, Bruno. But think about benching Greenwood at least because they could be it could be a weakened lineup, or it is a weakened lineup based on that team news. But again, we don't know what Wolves are going to do, so there's always the possibility that Wolves have a weakened lineup as well. That lineup may not be it, is what Goldbridge says. Well, we have to go check it out immediately. Nothing is more important than this lineup. Because if we somehow get news that Bruno is starting, that's a big deal. Okay, that's very nice, Mark Goldbridge. Apparently this might not be the team now. Well, that's helpful. That's very helpful. 7 minutes before the deadline. Allow me not to correct it, but I'll just say, you know what? I think in a vague way, this could be wrong. So, thanks for the help. It's much appreciated. Williams, Bailly, Jones, Tellez. I mean, is there any chance of Bruno starting? I don't know. We have no clue what this means now. If you have any other news, let me see it. Let me search up Manchester United team news. Oh, Mr. Goldbridge really is screwing us over here, guys. It's not fair. This guy just posted the same lineup. Everybody just thinks that I'm not going to find anything like this, am I? Let's go back to Mark Goldbridge. Let's see if he gives us an update. That'll be something interesting to watch. Let's see. So, looking at this team news, I mean, the rumors are that Bruno's benched. Green would be the only good player for United. That's affected a lot of people's transfers so far. A lot of people have already confirmed transfers like Bruno out. So we'll see what happens. I'm tempted just to put him back in the lineup now after all of this, but I don't think I'll be able to make it happen. Let's see. Okay, still absolutely nothing. I don't know. I'm going to stick with that team news as legit and just hope it. Yeah. I think what Nuclear Adams says about staying away from this game probably makes sense. We just don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to bench Bruno and play Greenwood. I hope it works out. Hopefully we get some team news soon, but we simply don't know. Everybody's probably made their transfers at this point. I retract my my recommendation of Alonga. I think there's still a pretty good chance he plays, though. But we just don't know that much, so I can't really recommend it. Let's take a look at West Ham's team if you're looking for a really last-second transfer. I think they have a decent fixture. I haven't really talked about them too much, but they do have some decent options. I did put the stream on a little more of a delay this time. not an added delay, but it's just I wanted to higher the video quality, and I think that delays it a little more. So I think I'll be a little more delayed, like reacting to chat and stuff like that from your standpoint. Let's apply the West Ham team. Let's take a look at what they've done recently over the past 2 months. Benrahma, the best statistics on West Ham. Benrahma and Bowen actually surprisingly beat Antonio for expected goal involvement, but Antonio still dominates expected goals. But it's just when assists is factored in, they have a higher expected goal involvement. The issue is, I imagine a lot of times they're creating chances for players that aren't Antonio that don't finish. Lingard can finish as well, but Lingard is actually below Aaron Cresswell for expected goal involvement over the past 2 months. And that's not because Aaron Cresswell's it's not because Lingard's been terrible. Cresswell has amazing statistics. Look at that, 0.38. That's like a 38% chance he gets a return per game. It hasn't quite worked out like that, but that's pretty incredible actually. Wow, I did not expect that. Kind of small sample size though. Not as many minutes as Lingard. Lingard's got a lot of minutes there. Souček's right behind Lingard. Not a terrible option. A lot of people probably still have him, though, so he's not going to be too differential for you. Only 2 minutes left at this point. I'm going to leave the team as it is. Not because I don't want to pick a differential captain, but because I'm worried about some random rotation elsewhere, and I really, really don't think Salah's going to be benched. I think he's probably the one guy we can really trust this week, so I'm going to stick it on him and hope my literal triple ups of basically as many triple ups I could get works out. Donna comes and joins me. Donna, what do you think? Okay, Donna's the most talkative cat ever. She gets in front of the microphone. She's just like, oh, I'm just going to look at it. Okay. Hey, Arvine. Happy birthday to your dad. Yep. I will see you next season, Arvine. You had to start either target Lindelof or Diaz. I would go Diaz, and then I would have probably target first bench. Hopefully you get that through in time. That's what I would do. Now, is Diaz going to start? Not necessarily, but target coming off the bench first would be kind of nice. I just don't think Lindelof's going to play at all. I think there's a risk of him simply coming off the bench and getting 1 point, so that's why I say him last. So good luck, everybody, this game week. This game week goes live in about 1 minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, after the deadline, I'm going to end the stream. I will begin streaming again for the games because I might as well. This day is basically dedicated to Fantasy Premier League for most people who play. And I'll start streaming right before the games start. All the games at once. I can't even tell you how terrible it's been to have all the games played one at a time. I think it's just been, I don't know, it's kind of boring, especially when a game you don't want is on, and you just gotta wait all day to finally get results, right, Donna? Donna agrees. You may not have heard her, but she certainly agrees. And 9:30 has struck, so we will be hitting the deadline very soon. This is my team as it stands. I'm excited for the Manchester United team news. We'll see what actually happens. I will go through and make my predictions for each game. So we got Arsenal and Brighton. Actually, let me see the lineups first. I'll do that when I start the next live stream. I'll do that when I start streaming before the games go live. I want to see how these teams line up. It will be very exciting. So in 30 minutes, we'll get team news. And after that, we will start streaming again. I will see you guys later. Yes, I can check your teams, then Nuclear Atoms if you rejoin. But for now, me and Donna, we will see you guys later. Thanks for joining the final deadline game, the final deadline stream of the season. And thank you guys for joining them throughout the season. I first did my first stream some point this season, so yeah, that was a while back when I just did it on my phone though, and then I finally was like, you know what, let me get OBS and stream. It's still not great, but next season we are gonna look into making some improvements. So excited about that. We'll see what we can do. And one of the improvements is right now, Donna unfortunately leaves the table, but she's improved the stream quality, right, Donna? Nobody wants to see you. Sorry. All right, I will see you guys in about an hour, a little over an hour.